I've been in the lower periods of life because I feel like, there is a lot less purpose compared to when I was running a business and I was constantly on the go. So learning to actually just go, it's okay to be in this space. It's okay to feel like this. Be here for however long you need to be, and you get to choose where to next.
Welcome to Trujectory, the podcast committed to helping you align with who you really are, your true self. The one who is so comfortable with their uniqueness, so in love with life, and so effortlessly able to manifest everything they always dreamt of. I want this podcast to be a resource to help you jump into the driver's seat rather than continuing as a passenger in your own story. Let's understand why we choose to hold ourselves back so we can shed the lies that we've programmed into our minds. We can heal the root causes and step into the epic human that we know we can be. If you're ready to start aligning with your trajectory, let's do it. We have the beautiful Jackie Tann in the studio today. Jackie and I have already been on an adventure together in the last 10 minutes. We started our interview on my platform, which decided to cark it halfway through, and we couldn't see or hear each other. So that was an interesting conversation. And now Jackie,
One-sided.
Yeah, exactly. And Jackie, luckily, is also a podcaster, which brings me to her title. She is an entrepreneur, a podcaster, and a self-development junkie. But because she is a podcaster, she is being kind enough to let me into her studio. So we are now working on a different platform, and we're going to see what happens if it lets us continue. So thank you so much, Jackie. Thank you for being here. Thank you for round 2. How you doing again?
Well, thank you. It's such a pleasure to be chatting with you. I'm really excited.
Thank you, love. Thank you for your patience as well. Good old technology. It's funny because we were just speaking about how podcasts have so many moving elements, and, the online platform is definitely, it's fantastic in the sense that it allows you to have access to anyone worldwide, right? But it also can be very frustrating, especially when you're in a very deep, meaningful chat or finding some golden information from your guest and then ding, frozen.
Exactly.
So I'll bring it back. I do want to get a little bit of background for the listeners about your podcast. So your podcast is called Bodies Built Better, which is fantastic. And you are featuring different people every week that all have varied experience in healing or medicine or, training, all the different ways that we can build and make our bodies the best they possibly can be. So can you give us a little bit of a background of how that started? What was the process? And were there nerves involved? That's what I always want to know about.
Yeah, well, there's definitely always nerves with something new that you're starting, but it came about because back in 2020, of course, as COVID blew up, I had to close down my business, and I had a remedial massage business. And I'm not one to sit around and just wait for someone to tell me what to do next. And I needed a way to keep in contact and connect with my clients and to continue to help them. I'm very much driven by how I can help others. And so what originally was the plan was to develop a membership platform where they would go online and they would have access to different kinds of videos, whether it was training videos, stretching videos, self-massage techniques, anything that they could use to apply to their lives and integrate into what they're already doing to continue to get the best from themselves. And so the other part of that was I wanted to interview incredible people who are much smarter than me, who can educate them a whole lot more than what I can, and just share other people's experiences and wisdom and knowledge. And so that's how it was. Never a podcast as such, but I wanted to do these interviews and share them with clients in order to continue to help them. And it was either 4 or 6 weeks into that closure where the government said that remedial massage is now deemed essential. We're going to open you back up. So right. Okay. now we're
and
back on.
readjust it,
Yeah,
readjust.
exactly. It was such a huge and, to be quite frank, exhausting process. But what I
Mm,
came to realize was that I could not sustain doing both the massage, the running the business, and a
mm,
membership platform. And so, what I did want to do was continue to share this incredible knowledge and wisdom from people all over the world. And so the way to do that, I decided, was through a podcast. And so that's how the Bodies Built Better podcast was born. And yeah, it's just grown from there. And I think it's funny because when I look back, I don't think the nerves were a thing to begin with because I was just so consumed by the fear of what I would do if I couldn't do the massage, couldn't do the work.
mm.
And so it was like, this is the next thing. This will keep me busy. This is how I can continue to help. And so that was that part. But as soon as it, changed, and that change being, it's now a podcast, it's now a thing, it's now something you can utilize in order to connect with people. And
Mhm.
that's when I think the nerves kind of set in, and I was getting in contact with people, people who I admire all over the world, and just thinking that, these people would never get back to me. And, some did.
Yeah.
And so, in order to get over the nerves part, for me, it's just research and set yourself up, get a
Mm.
plan in place so that you have something to work with. It's like my security blanket. It's funny because that's the one thing I get from everyone. I with my guests, I'll give them the opportunity to look over the questions if they want to.
Yeah.
I that's something
Same.
that, yeah, and so I've had this a few times where they'll look at the questions and they'll get back to me like, so there's a few questions there. I'm not sure. I'm not sure we'll get through all of them. I'm like, that's cool.
Oh,
That's
yeah, because 'cause
cool.
you've got just so many
Yeah,
things coming out
just
of you.
so many. Yeah, it's just like it's that security blanket of like, I'm
Yeah.
so aware of. I don't want there to be any awkwardness or awkward pauses or not knowing where to go
Yeah.
or what to say. So the 50 million questions give
We
me
need
an opportunity
backup
to go
after
somewhere.
backup after backup. Yeah.
Exactly. That's right. Yeah,
I
so that's
so
how I dealt
feel
with it.
you. I definitely feel you with that, especially the first few I wrote. I had a lot of questions as well, and you don't get through even half of them, and I'm like,
You
"What am
don't.
I doing something wrong?" But I really love that. I love the fact that it was created in that time, and it was sort of like an afterthought, not an afterthought, but it was sort of happening in the background organically without you putting too much pressure on it,
Mm,
because that would have been fantastic. Like you said, as soon as you realize, oh shit, I've got a podcast now, it's like, oh, now the nerves come in, and it's so
exactly.
interesting, right? Like we can have conversations for hours. As soon as you press that record button, something changes. No one else has entered the
That's
room.
right.
You don't even know who's gonna listen to this. They might listen to it in 5 years, who knows? But it's like, oh, suddenly the potential of anyone listening to this has just entered the room, and you see people shift, and it's so interesting. And I see it in myself as well. That's why my goal is to just be as real as I can. And I know I'm still dropping layers with each interview, but I just love each interview allows me to be a little bit more, oh yeah, we're just talking. Okay. And just calm
Yeah.
down
That's such a beautiful
because it
point,
just
and
changes it.
yeah, I think every podcaster will go through that. But yeah, it's like you question like, I'm sure I've had really good conversations without a microphone in front of me. Why now can I not have a good conversation?
Yeah.
It's a weird one.
Honestly, and it's the same. We were having a bit of a chat about solo episodes as well. I want to dive into that
Mm.
because that I find really tricky. I find that actually harder than the guest ones now. Originally, I thought it would be the other way around, but it's something that we were touching on to just before we started recording the first time round in the other studio. We were talking about how it feels at times like everything has been said, like especially in this self-development, self-care, self-love movement, the awakening, all of these things that are happening to people, which is fantastic. We're all going through it at the same time, right? But it does get to a point sometimes where you're like, I want to talk about this thing, and then you can cite about 50 different other people saying the same sort of thing, and it's that question of, you sort of start doubting yourself sometimes, saying, can I even bring anything different point of light,
Mm.
different, shed some different light on this? And it's been something that I'm still working through. It's some days I find it really easy and I go, no, I mean, I believe that people, I've heard the same message from 3 different people, and the third one, it hits me like lightning, but the first 2, it didn't even sink in. So that's what's shown me there is value in me saying these things. There's also so much in my head that I want to get out, that there's a reason for that. It's got to get out somewhere. So there's obviously someone who needs to hear it. But I do get up in my head a bit about it. How about you? Have you dealt with that a bit?
Um, I'm always in my head and overthinking everything.
I live there.
I live there. It's sometimes it's nice, most of the time it's tricky. But firstly, what I wanna say is I've listened to a couple of your solo episodes, and they're fantastic, and you do
Oh,
incredibly
what?
well, and you're so
Oh.
very articulate. So I
Oh,
wanna
thank
commend you on
you.
that and let you know that, yes, absolutely, you're doing great. And to your yes, everything has been said, and you're absolutely right. I've experienced that where I've heard the same thing said by multiple different people, but I connect with one of those people. And yeah, I mean, the reason for that is I align with their values and their philosophy and their personality as well, because I'm a big
Yeah.
personality person. And if
Mhm.
I don't connect on that energy, then
Yeah.
what you say, whilst it could be really incredible and really important and be completely pivotal in what actions I take next, if I don't connect with you on that human personality energy level, then it's not going to stay with me. And so when I'm able to hear it from someone who I just jam with, I'm like, "You fucking rock," then
Yeah.
then it's something that I will continue on with. So, for me, solo episodes are one of the hardest things, and I try to avoid them because I'm not very
Yeah.
good at it, but I also try to do them because I'm not very good at it.
I love that.
Um,
Yes, perfect.
yeah, so it's one of those things where if you really believe in something and someone has said it, I mean, why not repeat it? Yes, for your audience. And what I've actually learned is that not everyone hears the same thing. Not everyone knows the
Mhm.
same thing. Not everyone's been through the same experiences. And um, it was actually a lesson I've learned through my massage and my movement side of things, where I think this stuff is, you know, common knowledge, and it's not. And so many people go, "Oh, I didn't know that."
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, like, I guess you just got to squash that little voice.
Mm.
Just
It's so
step out and say
true.
what you want to say in the way you want to say it.
Yes, absolutely. And that you've just touched on to something really that was a big one for me. It was a big limiting belief that I had to overcome, and I had to look at it and go, what is this thing? I had this solid belief that everyone in the world knows exactly as much as I do or more. No one knows
Yeah.
less. Everyone knows exactly as much. So whenever I would learn something new and then I'd like try and have a conversation with someone, or even if it's a way of acting or something, and you'd look at someone and go, why are you doing that? You know better. And it's like, they might not know better. Why are you
Exactly.
assuming anyone knows anything? It was such a strange one, and it was so subtle. It was there the whole time, and that's what stopped me for so long from saying anything. But the truth is, I mean, I studied filmmaking for 2 years full time. And that was when I sort of shifted my career into doing what I loved. And this is also what the Trajectory podcast is about reminding people that they don't have to get stuck in their 9 to 5s and live a life that they're not aligned with. Because I did that for 7 years. I did that, well, actually for 12 years, but technically in a real job for 7 years. And it made me absolutely miserable. And so I finally stepped into filmmaking. It's a bit of a tangent, but the point of this is that when I went to film school, the first thing they said to us on the first day is, there's only 7 films. Get that in your head. There's only 7 films. They just keep getting remade over and over again. And it's the same with music. What is it? 12 notes. There's only 12 notes and they just keep getting used in different ways. And I mean, things that we're learning now have been said, like manifestation is so big right now, right? That was big in the early 1900s. It was massive back then when it was starting with Napoleon Hill and all of these other revolutionaries that started doing these things. But it's a beautiful thing, I think, that we're all recycling each other's knowledge because we're all the
Mhm.
same thing, right? And so it's just the ego that wants to separate us and go, I want to say it in a way that is so different and makes such an impact. And like, that's the thing that I had to calm down and go, why do you need to just let it come out the way it's meant to come out? And it will be felt genuinely by the people who are meant to feel it, just the way I have with people, like you said, that you resonate with, that you go, their energy, they feel like my tribe. Like I just feel like I
Mhm.
get them. It's amazing. Which is funny. That's where Roxy comes into the picture. So we've connected because of a beautiful soul in America, in Las Vegas and LA. And she's a mentor, she's a podcast host, she's a speaker, and she's just a thought leader. She has amazing thoughts, insight, and she's constantly sharing it. And as soon as I saw her work, I was like, I know you. Like, who are you? I just get you. And she was one of the people that I had just started the podcast. She's got over 20,000 followers. And I thought, this is the small mind thinking. I thought, oh, there's no way she's going to want to do my podcast. And straight away, of course, I'd love to. Of course. When do you want me on? I'm like, what? What's going on here? But she's just such a beautiful soul. And she's an example of that energy. It's just pouring out of her.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about podcasting and getting the opportunity to speak with different people from different walks of life. You never know what you're going to get. And I think, like for me, I put a lot of responsibility in being able to, host this, an episode and host this guest and make it really comfortable and enjoyable. But at the end of the day, that person is who they are, and you might not vibe with them anyway. And so being able
Yeah.
to still make a really great episode that connects with people and resonates with people is, I think, a skill that we both should be giving ourselves credit for, because at the end of the day,
It's
we
true.
need
There's
to
a
be
lot
giving
of
ourselves
moving
credit
parts.
because
Yeah. Yeah. Get better at this.
I think we're the last people to say about ourselves, oh, we did a good job there. So I think that's something that
Absolutely.
needs to be said.
Thank you, and back at you. I so agree. It really is, and it is so much more work than I thought it would be. And thank
Mm.
God, I love it. Like that's why I'm continuing to do it. And each episode, the amount of gifts that I get in so many different ways. Like I get lessons, I get new friendships, I've been gifted healing sessions and online courses and all these sorts of things. And I'm like, what? I just get presents every time. Like it's just so beautiful. And I get this elevated energy and I leave each episode going, oh my gosh, I am so amplified right now. Like this is what it feels
Yeah.
like to be in your purpose. It's incredible. Do you get that sort of
Yeah.
vibe? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. The energy afterwards is very high.
Yeah. It's like,
Um,
gotta go for a run,
so
gotta go for a run.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So it is such a special thing to be able to connect with people. So, yeah, absolutely.
It's so good. So, okay, so you do many different things. It seems like you do anyway. You're multi-talented.
Do I?
Do I? So are you still doing the massage? You're doing the podcast. It looked like you were teaching classes the other day at a gym, like a meditation or a
Yeah.
healing.
So back in April, I retired from massage and the business. And since then, I've been doing bits and pieces of things. So I've been um, contracted to do workshops for my massage association. So going around the country running workshops for massage.
Amazing.
And recently, what you're referring to is I connected with a beautiful business owner, a Pilates studio, and she said to come in and do some workshops. So they were like recovery workshops and stretching and mindset as well. So yeah, doing a bit of that and just seeing what I love and what resonates and what I
I
enjoy.
love
And yeah.
that. That's the thing, right? I just love that you're following your passion. That's what it looks like from the outside anyway. It's sort of you're not sticking within this I have to do a 9 to 5 or anything. It's sort of like what lights me up and how can I sort of incorporate that into a thing. So how do you stay grounded? Are you the sort of person who needs a routine, a schedule, like I've got all these things to do today and I get overwhelmed, or are you someone that sort of just goes with the flow a little bit more? Like what does your day-to-day sort of look like?
I I think so. I'm definitely someone who's more a go with the flow, but in saying that, having certain things I know that need to be done and
Mhm.
getting them done. And so my daily routines, like I'll have a morning routine, and that is movement, that is a bit of meditation, that is going for a dip in the ocean if it's not freezing cold, that is, red light
Nice.
therapy. Like though these morning routines are, yeah, that foundation to set me up for the rest of the day. And so the days can be really different. Some days I'm doing awesome interviews and working on the podcast and doing editing for the podcast, and all the social assets that go with the podcast. Like there is so many, like we've
So
already
you edit
said, moving
yourself?
parts. I do everything with the podcast. Yeah.
I love that. I
Yeah.
haven't met anyone else who does it themselves. I'm like, there is a big list per episode. There is like this
Yeah,
thing
it
and
is.
this thing. So
Yeah.
thank you for just
Yeah.
saying that. Yeah.
It is a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
I know, people ask, "What do you do with all your time?" I'm like,
What,
"There's so
Tann?
much."
Yeah.
Um, and then, when there are workshops to be done, then it's about designing and, putting together these workshops for businesses and clients. And then there is study, because I'm a big study person, so I wanna make sure that I'm always learning, and if it's not study, it's reading something. And what else is there? Yeah, at the moment it has just been the workshops and podcasting, and that's been enough. And
Yeah, that's a
so
lot.
it yeah, the days will be sort of aligned with those two, however they look. And then obviously there's training in there, and there's cooking dinner and
Yes. And I mean, that's
all
the
those
thing
sorts
though,
of things.
right? I find similar. Like when I have slower weeks, like say record video content, I film and I edit for clients. That's what I do for my job. And I've cut down to 4 days a week doing that. So I'm able to focus a bit more time because the podcast does take a lot of work. But even
Mm.
on days where there is a little bit of movement, like there's a bit of space, it's a bit slower, even just doing my morning routine, cooking each meal, putting some decent time into prep and cooking it, doing a little bit of reading, doing a little bit of meditation. I'm like, that's like 8 hours. Like, where is
Yeah,
gone?
and I think that's really important to bring up, is the fact that, you know, I think this sort of hustle culture, going after what we want, like you can do that, but you don't have to fill up every minute and every hour of your day.
Mm,
Like you can have some time for yourself. And I know that's, I come from a privileged position to be able to say that, because I'm not in a 9 to 5. So my days do look different from, that typical 9 to 5er. But I think it's still important, even if you are in a 9 to 5, you've got to
mhm,
carve out some time for yourself to be able to give back to yourself, to be able to recharge yourself in order to continue to do what you do and give that energy and put that energy into, the people that you love and your work and yourself. Like it's such an important, I think, message to
mhm.
reiterate to people, is that you need to give back to you, and you don't need to fill every second of your waking
Yes.
hours.
Right. And that's the thing. I heard a beautiful quote from, I think it was James Bay, the singer. I don't know if you know him. He's
Yeah.
amazing in the UK. And he was saying, people who aren't artists don't get me. Like, they don't understand that half of my day sometimes is I need to sit at a window and stare out of it to get that space, to get that flow of inspiration. I'm like, thank you for saying that. Because sometimes I would judge myself going, why do I need this space? And why do I need to just sit here? But I need the same thing. We really do need, if you're constantly moving, you're not allowing any sort of new information to come in. I don't know about you, but I find I get my best downloads, information, inspiration, insight when I'm doing random things like having a shower or doing the dishes. When your
Mm.
mind is just allowed to just sort of be on the task, not thinking about 50,000 things, and you let it come in. But the constant need to distract, from my perspective, is that's people avoiding dealing with pain in whatever way, shape, or form it comes. It might be that I need to be on social media because I can't be sitting here, because if I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about how uncomfortable I am in my body and I need to get fit, but I don't want to. Like, that's just one example, you know? So the more stillness you bring in your life, the more you get to know yourself. And this is where I'm always talking about the true self, like being able to connect with that true part of you that is the untainted, unprogrammed, you know, part that literally is just here to flow and experience passion and have a beautiful, abundant life. But we just feel like we have to stop ourselves and stand in our way. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is a crazy thing, and I haven't heard that, and I think that's beautiful that, you know, what he's said. And, you know, what comes to mind for me is, you know, during this whole process of stepping back from, you know, a 17-year-long career, is that during that period, I would always be doing something and always on the go and always looking after someone and always like doing everything for everyone else.
Yeah.
And not that, I mean, I don't hold any bitterness towards any of that, because that's what I loved.
Yeah. I
But
love helping people.
yeah, but what I realized was when I stepped away from that, and then all of a sudden I'm not constantly helping everyone else, I realized actually I needed the time to work on myself. I need the time to work on myself. Um, but also, you know, having that space to do it is so
Mm.
important, and that space does allow for creativity. And any time where I'm feeling like I'm flat and stagnant and or irritable and frustrated, it's about, well, how can I create that space? Do I need to go for a walk? Do I need to step away from the computer? Do I need to stop editing for a moment,
Yeah.
in order to, yeah, get my head and energy in the right place that it needs to, again, be creative,
Mm.
whatever it needs in that moment.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's so true. And it's so lovely to hear someone who does the same thing. Like, with the, even with the editing, I love editing, right? And I love editing podcasts. But even during those moments, sometimes I need to take a break. It's just getting a bit too
Mm,
much, or I'm burning out physically and I'm trying to push this thing. And in the past, I was exactly the same. I would run around 1,000 miles a minute. I would, as a camera person, whenever anyone hears, you're a camera person, you can film things. Can you come over here? Can you come to my event? Can you do this? And I would, of course, say yes. I wanted to help everyone. And for some reason, I just never gave time to myself ever. It's really incredible. And it was, for me, it was a big life change. It was the seizures I was telling you about that kicked in 2020. And that was my big hitting a wall going, you can't do this anymore. And one of the
mm,
gifts at the time, which was really upsetting at the time, was that I can't drive anymore until I've been 2 years seizure free. So I went from being very independent, driving everywhere, to the next day, you can't drive anymore. So suddenly I can't do these favors for people. I can't work with cameras necessarily. At that time, I was really weak. And so everything sort of shifted. But I'm so grateful for that. But my hope is that people don't have to wait till that point. You know what I mean? And to really honor themselves. If I was filling up my cup just a little bit every day, I maybe didn't have to get to that point, but I would just deplete every little part of me for anyone and everything except for myself, and just be so burnt out at the end of the day. It's just amazing. It's amazing how the body really demands repayment at the end.
it really does. And yeah, it's one of those things where you don't know at the time, because you're keeping on, keeping on, keeping on. But yeah, eventually it does catch up and the body does stop you.
Mm-hmm.
And the unfortunate part about that, because I know there's a lot of people who do that, who just keep going because they think they should or they need to, they have to. But the problem with that is that time where the body eventually stops in whatever way, um, you know, what other long-term impacts does that have? And what is the conditioning around that the body then internalizes long term? And I guess what I mean from that is like, um, you know, when we continue to do and just do,
Do, do,
um,
do.
yeah, how is that rewiring our nervous system? How is that impacting our hormones? Like, it's just,
Mm.
there's so much happening on a, cellular level, on a, biophysical level. Like, it's just, there's so much happening. And I think, take for granted these incredible machines, our beautiful bodies that can do so
Honestly,
much. Yeah, and
100%.
I think we also overestimate the things that we can do in terms of, or things that we think we have to do to get better or to give back. And it is those small one percenters that can have a big impact on your health or your well-being or your energy, um, compounding. So, just sleeping in,
Mm.
whether it's 5 minutes or going to bed 20 minutes earlier every night, or 15 minutes earlier every night, drinking that extra glass of water, going for that 5-minute walk every morning, like to the end of the street and back. Like, these little, I would say, little things, or one percenters, where it's just about doing something for you. It doesn't
Yep.
have to be an hour of something. It just has to be something in order to start that behavior change that is really going to be beneficial and positive to you and your well-being.
Absolutely. And that 1% thing, it took me a while to get my head around, but it is so true. And my example is piano. It took me so long to have the patience. So again, the seizures helped me because they gave me patience because I had no choice. And then
Yeah.
I started practicing 5 minutes a day. And I had previously told myself, if you're not practicing 2 or 3 hours, then what are you doing? You're not going to achieve anything anytime soon, blah, blah, blah. All
Mhm.
these stories and all these, I'd give up on myself before I even tried. And then I started just doing 5 minutes a day, and then 10 minutes a day. And then even if it is still to this day, it's only about 10, 20 max a day, if that. And I've progressed so incredibly. It's just the compounding of time and just having that like ability to just be calm enough to do it and trust
Yeah,
yourself that those small incremental changes are massive. But I'm really
exactly.
curious because you have so many different ways that you've worked with people. Like even just with the massage and with these workshops that you're doing, you get a bit more face to face and you get to hear about their ailments or whatever it is that they're going through. What do you find is one of the most common things that people neglect about their bodies? Whether it's, like you're saying, they're such incredible machines. Is there something that you see as a bit of a pattern, or are you like, dude, there's like 50,000 things? Like,
There's a lot, and if I was to say one thing in particular, is that I don't think people understand how to manage their stress.
mm,
Because I predominantly worked with athletes, but it was a very diverse mix of people. And at the end of the day, if you're not able to manage the stress in your life, all the other things that you're doing, um, whilst they can be really good to manage stress, if you're not really tackling what that stress is, it's
mm,
really hard to bring your body into a state of healing. Because again, if you're highly stressed, you're predominantly in that sympathetic state, which is that fight or flight, and your body isn't able to calm down. And the reason why we should be in that parasympathetic state is that we can relax, we can digest, we can bring our body into a state of healing, of restoring itself. And if you're someone who, I worked with athletes, if you're someone who's training really hard and the intensities can be high, whether it's running endurance or if it's strength and, weight training, you do that in order to get stronger, fitter, faster. You can't adapt. You can't get stronger, fitter, faster if you're not able to come down into that parasympathetic state. And if you've got stress in your life that's keeping you up on this high state of alert, and your body is not able to calm down from that, you're not going to adapt as well as you could if you were able to get into that calm state of being. So I think we all need to learn how to manage our stress better. And that could be that it could be a lesson in actually trying to identify what the stresses are in our life, because I feel like we can close ourselves off to that, because it can be really hard to deal with and a lot to deal with. But if we can manage the stress in our life and learn to calm ourselves and nurture our bodies and our minds and our emotions, then I think we could be much healthier, happier, and really promote that healing process a whole lot more.
That's beautiful. It's so true. Hey, and it's the willingness to look at it is step one. It's sort of,
Absolutely,
because
yeah.
there might be, and again, this is where the 1% thing comes in again. You don't have to fix it all overnight. And in fact,
Exactly.
everyone, remember, this is the biggest thing, is that healing isn't, first of all, it's not linear. It's going to go up and down and left and right and back and forth, but it's also continuous forever. It's going to be a journey that you're on. Like, I definitely told myself the story when I first started waking up and started looking at all of these, inner stories, that, oh yeah, well, the rate I'm at now, 5 years from now, I'm going to be completely healed. What will that look like? Amazing. And then 5 years later, oh, I've got a whole new basket of things to work on now. Great. It's like, it just, when you can find joy in the healing process, I mean, it becomes part of your day and it's beautiful. My morning routine sounds like similar to yours, is a healing routine. It's incredible. It's for my mind, body, and soul. I do all sorts of things: meditation, movement, journaling, writing, manifesting. Is there anything, though, that you could give people as a sort of tip to deal with a little bit of stress? Maybe just something simple that they could do, even if they're at the office and they're like, everything is just too much right now, I just need a quick hack or something. Is there anything?
I think understanding that your breath is so powerful, and breathing, even just knowing to extend your exhale is huge. So whenever you do any sort of breathing techniques, it's always breathing in through the nose, and this is specifically to bring that state of calm. Always breathing in through the nose, and out through the nose is simplest. And I know some people out there, noses are blocked. There is a technique to sort of unblock that, which is just pinching your nose and shaking your head from side to side, for as long as you can.
Okay.
But the breathing side is huge. So whether you breathe in for 3 seconds and then breathing out for 5 seconds, that extended exhale is a message to the brain to say, oh, we are safe. And so it'll start to calm the system. So that in itself I've used for as well since 2020, when I learnt about it and had to move through some stressful times. So the breath is certainly a gateway to, calm and definitely getting into that parasympathetic state.
Beautiful. Thank you. Love the takeaway tips. So, Jackie, it's always little gift bag for everyone who's
Yeah,
listening.
yeah,
Take it home.
exactly. You just put it in your toolbox, and whenever you need
Yeah,
it, it's there.
exactly. So, I want to know, how do you maintain such a beautiful, positive vibe disposition, whatever you'd like to call it. You just seem like you are such a happy gal, and I just love it. And like, have you done a lot of work around that? Or have you always been this way? Have you ever had a bit of a dark night of the soul where you're like, holy shit, I gotta do some work here?
I I think I've always been this way. I I I
Amazing.
can't say there's anything in particular that I practice or that I do, but one thing I will say is that I love to feel good, and you can't feel good if you're bringing low energy into things. And I love to laugh, and so I am more than happy to look like an absolute knob in order to either make myself laugh or to make someone else laugh. So it's just about trying to spread that, I guess, joy or laughter in any way, because I'd rather be, yeah, in this happy joy frequency rather than that low one. And that's not to say I don't get low, because I certainly do. And funnily enough, I've been feeling low these past few weeks, but that's another story. But in saying
Mm,
that, like, it's, yeah, when I do feel like that, it's about coming back to what does make me feel good and making
mm.
sure I am prioritizing those things. But um yeah, I just I want to be laughing and enjoying myself. So
I
yeah,
love
and I
that.
yeah,
And
and I want you to be laughing and enjoying yourself. So I guess sometimes I'm a bit big and loud and a bit crazy, and that
it's
just comes
great. I
with it.
love your cooking videos. I love your vibe when you're doing cooking videos. But that's the
It's just
thing. It's
fun, right?
Yeah, but it's like you said, it's a choice. You know that's how you wanna feel,
Mm,
so you're choosing the things that make you feel that way. Suffering is also a choice. We just forget that. We just keep going, and I've
yeah.
fallen into that for years and years. I'm still just coming out of it. I have days and sometimes a few days in a row where I dip back into these periods of really low vibes, and I sort of realize I'm choosing to sort of sink into this. What I'm trying to work on at the moment is allow like I heard in another podcast, good old podcast, they're such a gift to the world.
Love it.
Um, I heard someone saying recently, sorry, my voice is just exiting the building. Um, they were saying that your life is imagine it in three thirds, right? So one third is fantastic, one third is fucking rubbish, and one third is in the middle. And that's okay. And so, what I've found for myself, the biggest struggle that I've felt is when I have those low days, I expect that I can get myself out of it right away. I feel like I shouldn't be here. This isn't okay. And I judge it and I have resistance against it. So I'm fighting this energy, sort of getting more and more tangled up, going, why do I feel this way? Why? Instead of like, oh, I feel a bit low today. Okay, maybe I'll make some choices to do a little bit less, or maybe I won't see people today because I might rage out on them, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. Just again, that awareness. And I think that's something that people are only just sort of starting to really look at now and go,
Mhm.
how am I feeling? And okay, what are the choices I'm going to make based on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the awareness piece is so crucial, but I think even before that is the willingness to and courage to be aware of where you're at and what you're
Mm,
feeling and potentially why you're feeling it. But it's something that I've learned again, especially in the last 6 to 8 months, where I've been in the lower periods of life because I feel like, there is a lot less purpose compared to when I was running a business and I was constantly on the go.
mhm,
Um, so learning to actually just go, it's okay to be in this space.
mm,
It's okay to feel like this. And you don't owe yourself or anyone anything. So be here for however long you need to be, but just know uh, that this isn't you, right? It's not you forever,
mm.
and you get
Yeah,
to
it's a big
choose
one.
where to next. But yeah, I guess that self compassion, and like you said as well, like not judging yourself for being in that position is also
Mm,
really a healthy and positive way to look at the low periods in life, because we get them. Do you need to rush out of them? Not necessarily. Can you learn from them? Absolutely. Do you need to learn from every single one? Probably not, because that's
That's a
life.
big one as well. Yeah, the overachiever side going, okay,
Yeah.
well, all right, well, I'm
What
feeling
else
shit.
is
All right, let's get
That's
my
right.
notepad. Come on. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, it's so
Yeah.
funny. Us humans, we're so cute. We're
Yeah.
hilarious. Honestly, I'm like, it's just mind blowing. And that's why I love having these sorts of conversations because even just hearing someone else talk about it, you go, oh, yeah, it's not just me. And even though you know it's not just you,
Exactly.
you're like, there's billions
Exactly.
of people going through this, but that doesn't register when you're in those moods. So even just
Mhm.
having conversations and having people who might be listening to these sorts of conversations, it's just lifting us all, making us all feel a little bit more held. And I just love that.
Yeah, it just validates our experience.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna let you go soon because I know you've got lots of also probably got lots of editing to do today. But I would love to ask 3 final questions.
Mhm.
So what when you look over your life, do you believe I sort of am preaching a lot lately about how your greatest challenges become your greatest teachers, and I do believe that's the truth. Do you have something that you've gone through in your life that you sort of look back at the time it might have been like this is the worst. Why is this happening to me? But you look back now and go, I'm so grateful that happened. It changed me. It made me a totally different person.
Um, I look back on really difficult periods and I can see the lessons in them now, definitely. Um, and I guess there's a sense of gratitude to that. But also they were just really fucking hard and I hated going through them and I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. Do you know what I mean? So there's this
Yeah.
very for me, like, I feel like I've still got some work to do. And,
That's fair.
uh, yeah, there's a learning process in all of it and, yeah, like, I can pick where I can certainly go, "Oh, that needs to change for now because I don't want to be stuck in that position again or doing that or taking on that much." So there are definitely periods in life where I can look back and so say, "Oh, well, that's what I need to do differently now." Or even like,
Mm.
"Oh, that's why I do what I do, and that's what happens when I do it too
Yeah.
much." Sort of thing that,
Yeah.
it's certainly about that awareness. So that, yes, I'm absolutely thankful for because without them, we just continue doing, the things that we do, the habits that we have that may not be serving us. And the only
Mm.
way to really get that, you know, look in on them is for it to kind of blow up in your face sometimes. So unfortunately, that's the way it goes. And yeah, so
So
I don't know
true.
if you actually want me to give you an example, but there are
It's
certainly
okay.
periods. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. It's so spot on though. Like when you look back and you go, "Oh wow, okay, there's no mystery as to why I'm acting this way or have this trigger or
Yeah,
this thing or."
exactly. Yeah, the
Mm.
triggers are an interesting thing for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Especially when you think you've worked on some and then they pop up again and you go, "Oh, hello, you're
Yeah.
back."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, random question. What do you think the child version of you would have to say to you right now?
Oh, I think she'd just look at me and go, "You're so cool."
Yes, I think so too.
I just reckon that's what she would say. I was so
100%.
timid and, um, yeah, very shy and easily intimidated when I was little, and I would never imagine I'd be doing what I'm doing, so and, having done all the things I've done as well, so she'd be proud.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, final question. What is your definition of the true self? What does that mean to you? It's said a lot, true self authenticity. But what does that look like? What does that mean to you?
Ah, well, it looks like me being me, so I guess like what you said, I always seem up and about and laughing and whatever, and like that is really me, um, and true self is having the courage to stand in your values and in your beliefs and philosophies and live by them, like live by them, not the idea of them, but live in them. And my values is, one of the highest ones for me is integrity. So everything I do, there's been opportunities where I could have done something, but it's just hasn't felt right. And that could have given me either, more exposure or could have got me potentially further in my career, but it just goes against everything I believe. And so, being true to myself is living by my values, and that's, taking the action and just loving who I am and showing up as that person.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for that explanation. I love that. So spot on. I just love hearing everyone's different version of it, because it sort of means a little bit different to everyone.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time, Jackie. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate your patience through our technical difficulties. It was a nice adventure.
It was. It's been a real pleasure, and it's been really lovely connecting with you, and I really appreciate you having me on your show.
Oh, amazing. Well, have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. I'll see you on socials cooking some more amazing dishes with a smile on your face.
Or not so amazing and still smiling about it.
Yes, exactly.